everybody? KMK here with you once again. Hopefully you can hear me this time. And hopefully we'll be able to hear me all throughout the entire episode tonight. It is a brand new episode of the Power Hour. We're officially on episode 25 of the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour here on GeForce TV. It is a quiet and cold Monday night. Snow all over the place here in Ontario. If you've first time catching us here on the show, thank you. Really appreciate you coming on in and chatting with me tonight. Obviously, it's still quiet here in the off season for the NASCAR Pinty Series, but there's lots of fun stuff that we can continue to talk about all season long. Obviously, there's a lot of changes that we hope to see in the offseason. Things are going really, really quiet right now. We did get that news a couple weeks ago about Alex Gannett moving over to the EHR number 3 full-time for 23 and 24. Expect things to trickle in maybe a little bit for the rest of this year, but I expect it to be pretty quiet. The only thing that really we do expect is a schedule announcement, either the end of November or the first week of December. Real exciting stuff there. Hopefully we'll be able to get confirmations on where we are headed back for 2023. It's crazy to already believe that we are going to see a new season in the NASCAR Pinty Series once again. GeForce TV, of course, great job last week with the awards banquet at Ohsweken Speedway. Loves seeing stuff like that. I'd like to actually see a bit more of this in the future. I think that's something that award banquets are something that maybe not everybody can go out to see. I'd love to be able to catch something like that for the NASCAR Pinty Series, for the APC Series, Superstocks, Delaware Speedway. I think those are great options for off-season content for people. They'd like to be able to see that type of stuff. Jim Haynes, nice to see you in the chat again, Jim. I did see where Edmonton has started selling tickets, so for sure that is happening. Yes, Edmonton has already been confirmed. They had confirmed previously that they had signed a contract, 2-year deal last year, so that included it last year and this year. So Edmonton is for sure happening. GP3R for sure happening. And of course, we've got Ohsweken and Eastbound Park. So we already have those confirmations. We know at least 4 of those events are happening. I can't really expect that we're going to leave any of the tracks that we were at last year. If anything, maybe we add a race. I think question marks could always be arising in, say, a couple of places, Sunset, ICAR, and I would probably say Toronto. Those are the only ones that I could see maybe if there is some sort of a catastrophic issue that maybe those things won't happen. Obviously, it all depends on the sponsorship. Saskatoon, I would expect, is still going to happen. Obviously, if you're going to have those races out in Edmonton, it would not make sense to go to just one race. So at least those two. There's a couple of things that we could look towards schedule-wise for 2023. I know there's been rumors floating around about the trip to Atlantic Canada potentially being a little bit longer. I, again, don't have any inside information whether or not that would actually happen, but it could very well lead to something. I know Atlantic Canada fans are absolutely rabid. They love their motorsports, and that's been extremely obvious thanks to the Paint Scheme Challenge on the NASCAR Pinty Series community Facebook group. If you haven't joined already, get on Facebook, go and join it. There's 6.3 members, 6.3K members. We've increased 300 members since the end of the season, 200 since this challenge has started. Just going out and voting for what is your favorite paint scheme right now. I will reveal who is left for the 2022 version of this little fun that we're putting on. And then I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think is your favorite and whether or not situations like this you can set aside personal favorites and try to see which is the best of the best. And what I mean by that is Do you put somebody in that you like, or do you put them to the side in favor of another scheme? That's one thing that would be very, very interesting to see. Some news, obviously, that happened just a couple of hours ago. Trayton Lapsovich, unfortunately, confirming he is not able to make the Snowflake 100 this year, but he is doing something really cool instead. He is going to go to Germany for the Sim Racing Expo. He's got an opportunity that is amazing. He's going to go there representing D-Box, and he's going to run the iRacing International Series live at that expo. This is a huge deal for this series. That is a huge deal for Trayton Lapsovich. Great way to get his name out there as an ambassador for the series, not just as an ambassador for our series, but also an ambassador for D-Box. It is obviously something that Trayton Lapsovich is pretty good at. He knows how to put a show on for the fans. And one thing that we can definitely say about Trayton is that he is one of the guys in the series that knows how to use iRacing. He knows what he's doing. Had a great representation for our series in the first race at Las Vegas. Didn't pull off the victory, but was up there regardless. I'd love to see what he can do in a different environment. I think that's what's really cool, is that we're going to be able to see Trayton Lapsovich with all of that talent that he does have, showcasing it on an international level. Maybe there's some sort of a crossover appeal there. I mean, I would love to see if we could do something where Trayton Lapsovich is able to do a European race, a Wheel and Euro Series race. We have seen crossovers happen before. They have happened in this series, actually. JF Dumoulin and Frederic Galbion did a swap, GP3R, and I'm not sure exactly the race that he did, but it is definitely something that we could see in the future of crossover appeal. Obviously, the news that this coincides with is the news that the NASCAR Pinty Series is part of the international union for NASCAR, the NASCAR International Branch. Now, there was an announcement earlier this past week relating to chassis and the implementation of a world championship. Now, there wasn't enough details revealed as to what the actual idea is, but they want to create some sort of a world championship with the Euro Series, Mexico Series, the NASCAR Pinty Series, and I would imagine NASCAR Next will be a part of this too, just like the iRacing Series. But with the Stock Car Brazil route, they're going to obviously have a NASCAR Brazil. It's basically they've bought into this series. I like it. I do. I like the idea of having a world championship. The discussions were that they want a universal chassis across all these divisions so that you are going to be able to race in a world championship. I have mixed feelings on this one. I absolutely love the idea, the concept of putting together drivers from all over the world. Where this needs to be successful, though, is you need to have developed racing series. You need to have a market that's going to take these events. I expect almost like this is a Formula One-esque type of idea, where you're going to have drivers of all different nationalities competing at all different tracks across the world for a championship. Now, whether or not this helps race teams with their budget, I don't know. I can't imagine that making switchovers is going to be that easy. However, if it comes at a lower cost for teams, then absolutely. It also makes things cross-promotional. So if you have a team that wants to come up from Mexico and race in Canada, they could, because they have the same chassis. That's attractive. That could help any racing series. They could have drivers from our series and make their way to the end. I could see it. I like the idea. Again, my whole thing is don't ruin what we've got already. It's taken a lot of work to get to this point. The reality is it is still a tough sled here in Canada for the NASCAR Pinty Series. Obviously, we had a great season last year. What we need is continued momentum for this year. We don't know yet who is going to be confirmed back for 2023. So obviously, we don't want to take any attention away from Canada's own series. And that's the one thing that my biggest hope is that if they're going to do this, don't take away from what we already have. Run it in this time of the year. Run it in the off season when there is no racing that you could do in Canada. Like, take that opportunity, race, make it throughout a couple of months throughout the year. I don't want them to take drivers that are already here, like an Alex Tagliani, and then all of a sudden, or JP Bergeron, and then all of a sudden, LP Dumoulin or Kevin Lacroix, Injury Ranger, they're not in the series anymore because they're running this other series. That hurts it. Now, do I think that the folks at NASCAR would do that? It kind of kills the series if they do it that way. There's obviously question marks, but we've got to look at it different ways. We've got to look at cost point. Is this going to help the series competitors? You want that. You want the series to have healthy fields. We got that. If the chassis are going to be able to be cheaper and be able to be more mass produced, that's great news. And like I said, you could all of a sudden have a team from the Euro Series that wants to come over and race in this series. Jim Haynes says one problem with Brazil is I think the stock cars are smaller in size. I think Mexico and the Euro stuff was patterned after the U.S. cars. Similar, I believe the Euro cars, Jim, are very similar to the Pinty's cars, very much. Whether or not these chassis are going to be usable, the way I look at this is you've got all these teams in Pinty's. If they can't use it, okay, if they can't use these chassis, those chassis are going to go to hopefully OSS teams. That all of a sudden helps grow that series because now there's an influx of cars. Could really, really help that series. The problem, I'm going to get to Riegser point because I'm really curious. Riegser is one of our NASCAR Pinty Series YouTubers, and he has great content, so make sure you subscribe to his channel. He is here on the YouTube chat. I don't want it to take the attention away either. We have a hard enough time getting sponsors here. If all of a sudden drivers are now leaving this series to go to an international championship, that's potentially saying that their sponsors are going to go too. Riegser says, what concerns me is the possibility of each international series losing traction because of a single international series combining almost everyone. It almost depends on how it's formatted driver-wise. That's why I think, Riegser, it's got to be in the off-season. The problem is I'm not exactly sure if the Euro Series when they run. Mexico Series, same thing. I think you've got to have it collectively in an off-season, and if they're going to do it, they've got to have to pay for some of it. We know that teams and drivers in Canada cannot afford to be spending all that money on a new chassis and then all of a sudden be flying all over the world. We don't have multi-million-dollar teams, and a lot of these places, these drivers and teams, they don't have the budget to do that. They don't even have the budget to go across Canada. So now all of a sudden, if they're going to be driving or flying with their vehicles and going across to Germany, or if they're going to Great Britain, that's just not feasible. So I don't know where the goal is here. If it's something that they're going to run a series that's going to have cars available, similar to what we saw Michel Jourdain's series that Tag ran a couple of weeks ago, that's going to have cars prepared just like RS1, and you basically rent out a car and put your sponsors and stuff on it, then I could see that working. But I have a hard time believing that these teams are going to be able to do it like this. Because I think if they do it that way, it is no longer NASCAR International becomes the series, not each individual racing series. And I think that would really hurt racing in Canada, for at least the Pinty series wise. I don't think they need to go that route. Ultimately, if they kill off the Pinty series, it does kill off a pretty reputable series that has started a good comeback. Now, maybe they look at that and say this is a very good opportunity to build, because now the crowd's getting hot. We're getting some new competitors. You can't go off of 1 or 2 years of stable counts and then all of a sudden make this move. I think it's too risky. I don't think that Chad and the team at NASCAR International they're not dumb. They know what they want. I can't see it being the way that I've kind of originally, my thoughts were how it was presented. I think there's still a lot of things that need to be ironed out. But like I said before, I think having cars being much cheaper would be great. A lot of series have just designated races that would go towards the special series points and then have one of the larger races as champion. Maybe cars like an SRX car owned by a third party. That's what, Jim, I think would be... That seems like it would be the idea. But again, who do you have that's going to run it? Is it going to be somebody from the Euro Series? Who's going to provide all these cars, right? That's kind of there's a lot of question marks here, because ultimately I would expect you're going to see these guys come and race at all of those countries. You're going to have them race in Great Britain, in Germany, and Canada, and Mexico. Obviously, they would race at least once in the United States. And then, of course, it's what type of series is this going to be? Is this going to be an oval racing series, or is this going to be a road course racing series? Because if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe the Euro Series even races on ovals. So first off, this gives the Pinty Series guys a major head start. I don't believe I don't know the Mexico Series if they run on ovals and road courses. So it'd be very interesting. So Reeser says Wheeling Euro is May to October. Mexico is April to December, maybe an early in the year season. Yeah, that's, as you mentioned, that's very close to February, and we know that they're not going to accept. It's not going to be in the middle of the summer. We know that. I don't know. It's a lot tougher to figure out right now where they're planning on filling this, because at the end of the day, we don't want to lose any competitors. We finally got to a point where we had 14, 15 full-time cars this past season. That's been a high. We got to 28 Pinty Series cars. I think it was 27 at the end. Maybe 20. Was it 28? Maybe it was 26 for the finale. That's a high we haven't had in a long time. We're going back to 2013, 2012. You can't go the next year and all of a sudden sweep everything. Now, I don't expect this is going to we know NASCAR, they take their time with these types of things. I would wonder, though, what the TV package would look like for this. Because we know the Pinty Series is not readily available on mainstream cable. We know that the Euro Series is available online. I believe they stream on YouTube. Reeser probably can confirm better. I've only seen a couple of their races. They were good from what we saw, but Jim says maybe the Euro guys can come to Newfoundland as it is close to Europe. Well, I mean, I don't think Avondale and Newfoundland would mind very much. I think they'd like that very much, to have a whole bunch of people come in race. Even if it's just a simple exchange of having a couple competitors I think if you have, like, I've always talked about this before. You guys remember, if you're a longtime racing fan, you're going to remember the Toyota All-Star Challenge. And the Toyota All-Star Challenge was something that was done at Irwindale Speedway, took track champions from the Wheeling Weekly Series in NASCAR on the late model side, and then also took their regional champions on the it's like the big race essentially that they had with. It's like an all-star showdown with drivers from all across the United States. They had some drivers from Canada. Eventually they started adding. We had Scott Steckley, Andrew Ranger, DJ Kennington. Kennington almost won it a couple of seasons ago. Like, we're talking way back when. And there's no reason that they couldn't do this. I mean, I've talked about this before, that I would love to see some sort of a showdown. They do the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro this next year, and I think that's going to be a really good place to do something like this. Why not an international showdown? Similar to like what you see with SRX, but have cars prepared. It doesn't have to be a lot. Give 3 representations. You get 3 Euro drivers, 3 Mexico Series drivers, 3 Canadian drivers, 3 NASCAR Next drivers, and put them all in a race. Make it 12 cars. It could be your top 3 in points, or just 3 of your best stars, something like that. So let's just take an example. Let's just say you get Marc-Antoine Cameron, Trayton Lapsovich, and DJ Kennington. 3 different points. You got the current champion, upcoming rookie, who's not a rookie anymore, but and a veteran, former champion. Put them up against names that are from the Euro Series, names that are from the Mexico Series, and have them compete at North Wilkesboro. Like, that would be one hell of an experience. Putting them on that type of level. I don't know if ARCA, I wouldn't really put ARCA in that. I know it's like maybe West and East, but there's so many like cup organizations that kind of filtered into the ARCA series that it's not really what it used to be. It's not really the underdog series anymore. But having a showdown like that would be really cool to see that. And then you throw in some old veterans, some guys that haven't raced in, 20 years. Maybe not 20 years, but a good amount of drivers that used to be out there. We can add the modified drivers in. They're a perfect example. I think that's reasonable. And putting together a show like that is kind of they used to have the All-Star race. You'd have the Noble Sprint and the Winston Open. Have this as like a race before the race. I think we all know that the All-Star race isn't what it used to be. There's so many different winners. It's not really an all-star race anymore, right? So make it about the stars. We have champions across the world. Make it about champions across the world. I mean, like I said before, I'd love to see our all-star race that actually has every champion from NASCAR's divisions in it. Because you could probably put together a big race. Now, people assume automatically that you do that and you're going to have Joey Logano automatically just dominate and win. Well, you don't know that, right? You put him, Ty Gibbs, Zane Smith, the ARCA champions, the modified champion, your Pinty's, Mexico. She's picked Pinty's, Mexico. I don't know if Brazil would count for next year, but Brazil. Then you can have your Euro Series all compete, and that's something that they could do at the All-Star race. Again, not making, and that's the thing I think that would be nice about it, is you're not making it these guys aren't at our level, right? Or at least giving the opportunities to some of these guys. I mean, I agree with Rieger, though. Like, you put one ARCA driver in it, and it's an automatic melee. It's kind of true. And Jim says, not to be mean, but ARCA Canon has become mostly ride buyers as a stepping stone. No disrespect to the teams that only run ARCA still. I don't disagree with you, Jim. I think ARCA is a bit of a mess, and I think ARCA's been a mess for a long time. We've been in the position before, though, where the Pinty series was a mess. Not to that extent, because you don't have a ton of ride buying in the series. There definitely is, but a lot of it is people putting in their own work and their own sweat and tears into these race teams. So it's not as simple as that. Terry Dewey, nice to see you in the chat, buddy. Glad that you're stopping by. But, I look at this and go, okay, if we do have an opportunity, I mean, for me, back when I got to watch these races back in 07, 08, the Toyota All-Star Challenge, seeing a Pinty's guy in that race was amazing. It was the coolest experience ever. It was, I mean, especially when DJ Kennington got out there and he was so close to the lead. He could have won that race. May have been Jason Bowles that won that one, but to see our guy going out there and doing what he could have done. I mean, I think Steckley and Ranger had gotten wrecked in their attempts, but I mean, I would love to see what Trayton Lapsevich, what JP Bergeron, Brandon Watson can do against some of those names, right? And it's unfortunate that it was done away with, because again, we get the opportunities to show that. This is where I think an international series, it does have some interest from me, just so that we can see where our guys and gals could stack up against Euro competitors, Mexico competitors. I mean, iRacing is one thing, but it's not the actual race. I'd love to see what Trayton, but especially for me, I think everybody would love to see Andrew Ranger get back out there. Let's see LP Dumoulin, Kevin Lacroix. I mean, Kevin has been on fire on these road courses for years. And I think that having an opportunity for international champions to be a part of the festivities, whatever it be, even if you do something where it is literally taking the Xfinity Series, like I've said this before, the All-Star race, not having the Xfinity or the truck champion as a part of the festivities, it's kind of not making it an All-Star race. What's the point of winning the championship? I say the All-Star race is for the All-Stars of the Cup Series. Well, you can't have, and they've started doing this, it's like half the field is in the All-Star race. Well, that doesn't make it special anymore. It just makes it a race for the guys that have already won, and it's not really great. That's not really interesting. You don't have those guys that are getting in, and then plus you have guys that are like former champions or former winners making it. So now you're going to have more than half the field in it. It's not really a race to get in. Well, all of a sudden, if you say, okay, you win the championship, you will automatically get a spot in a car to try and make the All-Star race. Then all of a sudden, it's more of a challenge. It's more fun. You know, obviously going to Wilkesboro, hopefully it'll race good. Jim Haynes says, when I was much younger, the fall Charlotte race for the late model sportsman was the Permatex 300, and any NASCAR short track champion had a guaranteed starting spot. Wow, for that one race that they wanted to, they could have the international race between the All-Star main race and the last chance race instead of just jaw-jacking for too long. I agree. I think you have an opportunity to put these international champions on a platform on mainstream television. Give them the opportunity. They deserved it. They won the championship under your banner, under the NASCAR banner. They did that. Now, do I want to see it like an SRX? No. Make it a 50-lapper short track race. Go for it. Now, do I think that there'd be a bunch of embarrassments because people might just wreck each other? Yeah, that's possible. But the other aspect of it too is get out there and make the cars look exactly like the cars that they race. And I don't know, we'd have to figure what would be the best way to do this. Obviously, it's not like you're not putting them in a brand new Cup car. That's not happening. Nor would I want to see them in a new Cup car. I believe that for the Cup Series, but put together like an invitational where they race. If it's by Toyota, they all race a Toyota Camry, whatever 2023 Toyota Camry around the racetrack. Like the if anybody remembers, but they used to run the Toyota Celebrity Pro Race. Perfect example. NASCAR could certainly get enough late model stock cars in that area. They very well could. Absolutely. It's about putting in that extra mile. I know that they've got a lot on their plate for trying to fix and trying to work with for the 2023 season. But at the end of the day, we have to remember one thing. They're trying to make an entertainment. I mean, it's one thing. It is one thing. It is about entertainment. That has always been what it's been. NASCAR tries to be all about entertainment. Do I want to see a NASCAR all-star race and then a concert in the middle of it? No. I want to see racing. The more racing they get me, the better. It's the same thing I've talked about before with the APC/the Pinty series. Make the ticket worth it. I'm sorry, I wouldn't buy a ticket if I'm just going to see the all-star race. That's not worth it. I'd like to, do something fun. Get me that ticket that's going to get me to, yes, bring it back, the Pit Crew Challenge, because that was some of the best action that we got to see. It was always so much fun. They've kind of lost its luster, but because the pit stops have been challenging now, it could be an opportunity to do it, and you could see speeds that are absolutely bonkers. Especially with how they're having a lot of trouble with the one nut on the race cars. There's penalties that they could have, pushing the cars, and I love it. I think it'd be fun. It was always entertaining to watch that. Then you put in the qualifying, like the way that they do. Then you have the international challenge. There's options there. Terry says, put them in something they don't normally race to even the field out. Try open wheel mods. Perfect example. Or let's just say, I don't know, Terry, if Wilkesboro, if it's Wilkesboro that we're going to, modifieds, like, to me, is the vehicle. It absolutely 100% is the vehicle that I want to see. That is what the truck series is. When they made the truck series when it first started, was all the guys you may never have heard of from everywhere racing on short tracks. They may have never raced at before, made for great races. It's the problem that I have with the truck series and Xfinity series now, Jim. It's embarrassing to see how, and I understand, I get why they put them all together, because you don't have separate teams. They share pit crews. They share a lot of crew members. But at the end of the day, it's watering down the Cup Series. It is. Because the Cup Series is not the highlight. For me, the last couple years, it has been the Xfinity Series. The Xfinity Series has been the best racing from Daytona all the way to the end at Phoenix. 100%. Here, in the Pinty Series, we have the Pinty Series. That's basically our NASCAR series. You have the OSS Series, which is way different. Not even close in terms of its reach. Okay? You have the APC Series, which is a late model series. Completely different. You've pushed that to the side. Here, you have your top three divisions. What made them all unique? Well, the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series went to short tracks, road courses that the Cup Series did not. You didn't have the same names. Well, what they've done is they've kept the same Cup mentality for the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series by going to the exact same tracks on the exact same weekends. I personally think that has ruined both of them. I think you got way more love going to the short tracks and packing them to hell because there was a NASCAR race coming to them. It didn't have to be the Cup Series. And I still believe that if we went and had the Truck Series come to Canada, you could go to Jukasa Speedway or Delaware even and pack the hell out of that place for those races. I mean, Jukasa surely had the size that it could have handled one of those two series. I've been told no for either Xfinity or Trucks, that it's just not enough. And while I agree with like Hagersville, Jukasa is a little bit tough because there's not really much around. Delaware, it would be tough as well, but you're not that far away from London. So like you have some more closeness there. But you need that short track action. You need those road courses. They know that that's what fans want. Yet the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series schedules really haven't changed too much. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they added Portland back. I'm not 100% for sure, but they added IRP back. I thought Milwaukee. I don't know if I heard that correctly, but I'm trying to check my facts here because I think Milwaukee was on one of their schedules next year, whether it was the Truck Series or I think it was the Xfinity Series, if I'm not mistaken. Just trying to remember here. If I'm going crazy, it's very possible because I swear one of them was going to Milwaukee. Maybe it is the Truck Series. But that's... Yes, it was the Truck Series. Okay, so they've started a little bit with the Truck Series by going back to Lucas Oil Raceway, by going to Milwaukee, by racing at North Wilkesboro. What I want to see here for this Truck Series, I don't want them to go back to... we don't need Kansas. We don't need Darlington. Well, the Truck Series of Darlington's pretty good. Nashville Super Speedway, you could do away with that. Pocono, you could do away with that. Yeah, we don't need two at Kansas. We just don't. Phoenix, you could do away with that as well. I look at it and go, give me some more of those short track races. CTE Racing says Jukasa was redone so it could bring in the Trucks or Xfinity Series. I mean, I've said it before. I think the Whelen Modifieds, oh my God, if you gave me the Whelen Modifieds at those, oh, are you kidding? Oh my God, that would be an amazing event. The track is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. We're going to go to, Terry said 100% can add more temporary seating, but safer barriers, that might be a problem cost-wise. It's true, Terry. That is what holds them back. However, they did go to CTMP and there was no safer barriers, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I know jersey barriers are a problem with NASCAR. They don't like jersey barriers. So that would be a problem at a place like Delaware. And, of course, at Jukasa. And especially with the cost situation as it is, you have to reopen the track, and unless you get somebody who's going to, fund this, and I'm talking, you need somebody like get Ryan Reynolds away from the Ottawa Senators and have him invest in Jukasa Motor Speedway. I know he's a racing fan, so why not, right? I look at that and call it Deadpool Speedway. I mean, how cool would that be? Naming rights and everything. But there's options there. And what they did wrong, and why we say that the Pinty Series still works, because we've kept the short track side of things simple. You kept the short track action. One thing that I love about our series is the short track action is phenomenal. The road course action, street course action, phenomenal. Has anybody noticed what they're doing with the Cup Series? They're turning it into the Pinty Series schedule. They've added more road courses. Now they're adding a street course. We did this first. They're seeing parity. That's what works. Not running all cookie cutter, giant ass racetracks that all race the same. It is definitely a work in progress. Jermaine says they priced out the two series that need to be on the short tracks when you want $500,000 for a Truck Series short track race. There better be some money somewhere. It's a problem. It's why we can't even have the Truck Series at. We didn't have the Xfinity Series in Montreal. It came down to a funding situation. They couldn't find a sponsor for the race. Truck Series, it was started with COVID, but they would have come back if they had the funding. And Steve O'Donnell said that they tried to sell the Silverado, didn't work. Riegser is 1,000% correct here. Trucks need Iowa, Fairgrounds, South Boston, Hickory, Eldora, not Kansas, Texas, Nashville, Richmond. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Terry's right. They saw it working here. Terry knows. Terry has been in this series for a while. Not going to age you, Terry, but he's seen it. He knows that this series knows what it's doing. And now they're realizing, hey, gee, we have all these other fans that we could get. That's where they went wrong. They thought, oh, we got these big audiences when we built these big tracks, but then let's keep the schedule. Now let's hear from my chat. But then they thought, oh, we're going to keep everybody for years. No, you're not going to keep everybody for years and years and years. That's wrong. They kept the same schedule with the same tracks for 20 years. I've been watching racing since 2001, specifically NASCAR. It changed hardly ever. They did nothing. And now they're shocked, oh, we have all these empty seats. Well, because the same tracks are being used. Even the Pinty series has switched it up. You go back to 2010, 2007. Schedule, yeah, sure, there's some favorites still there, but there's been changes. YTW says, from what I'm hearing, Jukasa has some big NASCAR names looking at the track. You've got to divulge. You have to. You can't say that and not provide us with a little bit more oomph. Are we talking NASCAR or are we talking a star of NASCAR? Because I'll tell you, there was somebody that that I saw on social media today that they were talking about this, and Matt Weaver, who's one of our best friends from the U.S., Racing America's Matt Weaver, loves the NASCAR Pinty Series, loves Jukasa, and he was talking with Dale Jr. about potentially coming up and being in a Pinty Series race, talking about one of his dreams. Jason Hathaway has said, Dale Jr., I would build you a new NASCAR Pinty's Camaro, Chevrolet Canada, Team Chevy. If you ever wanted to come and race, I have sponsors as well, Choco and Fast Eddie. Family trip to Canada. Tony Stewart is what he's hearing. So Dale Jr., I know you called it the Pinty series, but we can forgive and we can forget. I mean, we talked about James Hinchcliffe potentially racing in this series when you go to Toronto. Why not Dale Jr.? Come on up. I know he wasn't always the short track. He's a super speedway ace, but he's a short track guy at heart, and I bet you he'd do great at Delaware Speedway. I don't know where else you'd go with Dale Jr. because he's not a road course racer, and he'd admit that. So where else would we go? Delaware, Chaudier. I don't see Chaudier. I don't see Eastbound Park, Newfoundland. Seems like Dale Jr.'s type of place. Lots of booze out there. Lots of people that have a good time. Not saying that Delaware's not that way either. But Delaware for the finale, you tell me that you get Dale Jr. in there for the Final Four weekend. Be huge. Jim Haynes says NASCAR 25 years ago only brought on newish fans and thought it was trendy. And then they left at the same time they alienated long-term fans. Tony Stewart wants Cash to come. He didn't do to Florence. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. The reality is the investment is what's going to be biggest. Tony, I'm a little surprised to hear that because we know Tony is very big into the drag racing, right? That's his new thing. I'd be very surprised if that's the route he wants to go. I wouldn't have expected Tony on an asphalt track. I would have expected him to be looking at a dirt track. However, if that is the case, I'd be all for it. I've said for a while, one of the things that made the NASCAR Pinty Series and CASCAR very fun was that CASCAR had a lot of that NASCAR South connection. You had cars that looked, you had the Skull Bandit car. Perfect example. You had the Havoline car, the Excite Batteries car, all tying in same look as their Cup counterparts. So we've seen Go Fast Racing Canada. We have yet to see a big name Cup team be invested in Canada. Now, obviously, Rick Ware Racing was here. It was one season, one and done. Didn't really work. But you know who's been tied to Dodge as a potential switch to bring them back into the Cup Series? Mr. Tony Stewart. Well, we still run Dodges. Yes, it's just the body, But why not give us a Stewart Haas Racing Canada? Maybe you get Tony Stewart up here with Dodge, get some involvement, Dodge Canada, all of a sudden Mopar comes back. Yes, it's a tough sell. It's a little out there, I admit. Good point here in that YTW says Tony is friends with Glenn Stiers, and if there's somebody who's doing great things for this series, that would be Mr. Glenn Stiers. Riegster says if Dale has been invested if Dale has been so invested in local late model racing across the states, then Pinty's would literally be his racing heaven. Absolutely. The only problem with that is when the race is going to be. Because he can't do it if it's going to interfere with his broadcast stuff. It would need to be either beginning of the season when he's not doing broadcasting, and Delaware's not at the beginning of the season. So, Eastbound Park is. Sean's Garage. Oh, nice. Welcome back, Sean's. Appreciate it. Been watching some old Cayuga Jukasa race footage on YouTube, and the old races there drew a lot of NASCAR legends. They really did. Lots of good ones. Kenny Schrader, Johnny Benson, to name a few. Mark Martin, just depending on where they were. All-Star Series Sprint Cars had one price for a race with Tony and a lower cost race without Tony, and that is a fact. But that's with everybody. It really is with those big name stars. YTW says Gaunt Brothers are one of the Oscar hot rods. They do. John Gaunt actually won in the Oscar hot rods. Riegser, in Canada, RWR makes fans excited and grateful. In America, those words equal a laughingstock. Yeah, it was tough. I mean, at the end of the day, Riggs, it was a sponsorship situation, and that's why that didn't happen. It would have lasted longer if that sponsorship was able to happen. Unfortunately, with Canadian rights on what can be advertised, it wasn't able to happen. And so because he had already made the deal, he stuck it out for that 1 year. I don't expect that they're back anytime soon, but I hope I'm wrong. Jim Haynes says, Tony's new wife might have something to do with Tony's drag racing interest. Yes, I would think so. Don't forget Tony owns the All-Star. Riegser, oh brother, if Dale were to do Newfoundland, my computer mouse would be broken from me spamming for tickets. I don't know, man. We'd be looking for a SNS representative at the track. Sean says maybe Tony can bring the SRX series here. I wouldn't be shocked if that would be something that he's interested in, Sean, because who else races in the SRX series? Mr. Paul Tracy, who's very big in terms of attention. Mr. Paul Tracy. So, and then of course you could do those, what they did, the local racers, have a local guy from Canada race in the SRX series, just like they did for names like Bobby Santos. Be something that's very, very interesting. Obviously that there's a lot of hurdles that we're talking about for all these things to actually happen. But at the end of the day, there's a lot that can still happen. It's with the fans here. We need to continue being doing what we're doing here. Right? By having these conversations, trying to build this fan base throughout the off season, build the attention, because eventually those sponsors, those partners that are going to want to see a return of investment are going to see us talking about them. Pinty's, for example, amazing chicken, amazing products, and especially all the people there that do amazing stuff for our series. We thank them so very much here on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour. Of course, because their commitment, we're going to be able to talk about the NASCAR Pinty Series for years to come. Sean says he will give Tony a call and run it by him. I'm sure he'll be picking up right away, right, Sean? Tony be interesting. I would be interested if I was going to pick a track owner you're going to want somebody that knows what they're doing. Now, Tony has run a track, obviously. He's run a dirt track. As far as I know, there's not a lot that needs to be done to Jukasa. The track surface was in pretty good shape prior to it closing. Now, it's been closed for a couple of years now, so I don't know. But I believe Alex and Nagy and the team have run cars on it since its closure. So the surface is obviously still being taken care of. I imagine you'd have grass and maybe some bleacher work that would need to get done. But again, at the end of the day, Jason Hathaway is putting a pitch out there for Dale Jr. He's got a car, and he would do. I mean, this is not the first time we've tried to get Dale in the car. I mean, we've tried. We tried with James Hinchcliffe earlier this summer. Jason and I we put this out on social media. Jason did the same thing. Said, "Hey, I've got a car. What do you say?" Jim Haynes says, "I think Kenny Schrader, Kenny Wallace would be a great shot, and I was also trying to keep short tracks alive." I would say that, Jim. However, in this day and age, Kenny Schrader, Kenny Wallace, to me, they're who you want to get on your weekend races. The problem, what we need to get, honestly, is some other, those younger names, the guys that people can see out at the racetrack now. Of course, dear old dad's got to be mentioned in the diecast because he knows how much I've been dying for diecast. This is part of building the empire that was CASCAR to now the NASCAR Pinty Series. One thing that is missing right now is that aspect, that whole piece. Now, you have to go back 22 years to 2000. Diecast was available for the CASCAR Series because you had so many different suppliers. You had Racing Champions, you had Revel, you had Lionel. The reality is, as I mentioned to him, licensing deals with NASCAR are extremely tough. You have to get permission from all these factors. You have to pay for it. And as he said, you need to get at least $20,000 to get these made. And you have to have a certain amount. Now, there's one thing that they need. To do all this, you need more capital. You need more money, more revenue coming in, return of investments. NASCAR is not going to make diecast. Teams are not going to make diecast unless they can make money. It's a hard sell. Teams don't have the money to put down on something that could sell or might not sell. That's the reality. I think if there's a team that's going to do it, it's going to be Paillet Racing. Because JC Paillet and his entire fan base very well could put together two diecast and sell. 100%. 100%. That's what they would be able to do. They're the team. They're the teams that have the good amount of money. DJ Kennington probably could. But the reality is, he's going to spend the money on the cars. He knows that he's not going to waste his money. He's going to put his money where he needs it. Before we go, if you are, of course, from Western Canada, you live and are close to at least, yes, Jim, there is only one stock car supplier right now. That is Lionel. Unfortunately, all the other ones are gone. Are Action, Racing Champions, Winner Circle, all gone, or at least absorbed. So Black Friday sale for Edmonton International Raceway. You can get yourself a free NASCAR Pinty Series Bayer 300 ticket when you buy your season pass for Edmonton International Raceway. Or Alex Tagliani would sell a lot of diecast. 100% he would. If there's a guy that knows how to get businesses and knows how to get companies to do it for him, Alex Tagliani would be the guy. We have seen it done in the NASCAR Pinty's era. It's, I think, more or less the Canadian Tire Series era. We have seen Kevin Lacroix had a limited run of 74 cars. They didn't even have, they had to be run on Camaros because they don't run Dodge. They don't have Dodge molds. So that wasn't able to happen. So they ran it on a Camaro, which was a little odd to see. Scott Steckley with Canadian Tire had a limited run as well. Also, they did tractor trailers for the 22 car. No 164s have been done as far as my knowledge is. Some other teams have done them, but they were not NASCAR licensed. They were customs. People have custom made them. Thank you, Kyle. It's a tough sell, honestly. The reality is, if you're going to buy a NASCAR diecast new, right? The reality is you're spending a good chunk of money, right? Well, now all of a sudden you put that in Canadian dollars, and if it's being manufactured by Lionel US, you're not going to be spending cheap amount of money for NASCAR diecast here. That's the reality. It sucks because I would be buying any type of NASCAR Pinty's diecast I could. APC diecast, same thing. It's just you don't really. It's somewhat difficult with the licenses, with having to get agreements. People want a bit of that coin too, right? They want some of the revenue. It's tough. I want to throw out a special congratulations and well wishes to Tyler DiVincenzo here. Good story for him this past week. Was announced that everything's coming back for him. I would expect Tyler's going to race in the APC series, and I've been waiting to see that 97D back out on the racetrack, so excited to see that. Reacher says, I'll take a 20 2022 Edmonton race version diecast would totally be clean and unconventional car. I don't know, Reegs. I think those would be hard to get. Lame. YTW Snips. The diecasts are a really good way for fans or kids to get into the series. Absolutely, 100%. It's that's what got me into racing, was being able to collect the diecast and the video games. We have to remember that one thing too. The NASCAR video games need to be good, and they haven't really been great. Weekly, Tyler says hopefully we'll see him. He says, if not APC, then a weekly series. We're talking Delaware, because that would be pretty badass. I see DiVincenzo out there running the APC late models weekly. That would be fun. A lot of fun. Even a lot of Cup teams don't have diecast cars anymore. Is that true? Also, Terry Dewey says, Chaco Warehouse sale this week, so make sure you guys pay attention. Chaco Motorsports, always good racing wear out and available. Also, Epic Racewear has some good details out there. So Chaco, definitely get your Epic. Your Epic is separate, so get your hard enough to get a specific driver t-shirt. Sean's Garage, it's true. We're working on that though. We're trying to work around getting some more driver merch out there. I know if you're gonna get it, definitely go out and make sure you get your Fast Eddie. Always really cool racing designs out there, and obviously Chaco Motorsports been in it for a long time. They do hats, shirts, lots of great stuff. They provide all the uniforms for our G-Force crew. So definitely make sure you go out there and get your Chaco Motorsports and your Fast Eddie racewear. I mean, Fast Eddie, all the Team 3 red teams be repping that stuff. Obviously, really good looking stuff too. With this past year with the Dexter Stacy, Wallace Stacy, Brett Taylor, and Rafael Lessard, Ray Courtemanche, really nice looking stuff. So we are hitting our stride here tonight. Good amount of crew coming in, but unfortunately that is going to wrap it up for this week. Make sure you guys check out the International iRacing Series again. Thank you guys for coming in and chatting with me. We're going to do this all off season long, and we'll continue to do it well into the new year, right up to the 23 season. I hope to be able to do APC series and Superstock stuff as well on the channel. Obviously, I'd love to be able to chat with Tyler if he's going to be out in the APC series this year. A lot talking about the APC series. Great racing in that series too. A lot of fun. So keep it tuned to G-Force TV all week long. Make sure you tune in for Race Rivals Race Chat. And thank you, everybody. Really appreciate you having fun with me tonight. And we will see you all next week here on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour.